It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
And when it comes to establishing your worldview, I was curious, what newspapers and magazines did you regularly read before you were tapped for this to stay informed and to understand the world?
I've read most of them, again, with a great appreciation for the press, for the media.
But like what ones specifically, I'm curious that you...
all of them, any of them that have...
Can demonic spirits attach themselves to inanimate objects? The answer is yes.
Welcome to Twat Waffle of the Week.
Greetings and welcome. No, I have zero opinion on the Depp-Heard verdict. I did not follow the trial, and the only Johnny Depp movie I am aware of or even watched is Benny and June. I am not aware of any of Amber Heard's work, so I'm going to plead the fifth. But that is not to say that their trial was not important for whatever reasons. I do know that quite a few of my friends are discussing it. I just don't understand what it's all about. And the only other news, if you want to call it that, so I'm attempting a new workflow to try and get my pods published, I'll say in a more timely fashion, but a more organized fashion as well. So we'll see what happens, but that's about the only thing going on for me. Onwards and upwards. As some may be aware, I also try and combat woo medicine and pseudoscience. I do so more as a piecemeal fashion now, as it can be very time consuming. In other words, making sure that the information I pass along is accurate. I just don't have the brain power I used to 7 years ago before I had my first stroke. I also don't have the attention span. I get halfway through a project and I lose interest in it. Twat Waffles, I've been able to keep a fairly good clip going and finding stories that are of interest and are relevant. So far it's working, so I ain't gonna complain. But this first story actually hits 3 of 5 topics that interest me in both woo science and politics. Quote,
in the recently filed lawsuit, patient Thomas D. Alessandro has sued Durgis for alleged medical negligence. D. Alessandro alleges that Durgis was using a fake stem cell treatment to alleviate lower back pain. The new suit includes Durgis's husband, Daniel Durgis, as a defendant too, as well as their clinic, Ozark Valley Medical Clinic, according to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. In his lawsuit, D. Alessandro says she held herself out as a doctor during a presentation to potential patients about stem cell treatments. At the presentation, defendant Patricia Durgis gave the impression to participants that she was a licensed physician and that her clinic provided stem cell injections capable of treating, among other things, chronic pain, the lawsuit notes. After 2 rounds of injections costing more than $6,000, D. Alessandro said there was no improvement in his back pain. It's hard to imagine there would be any improvement from just the fluid.
end quote. Now, from my understanding, Durgis is unable to seek re-election as a GOP candidate. They basically threw her out. Now, whether she can run independently and I don't mean as an independent, but like a write-in, is unknown. My issue with this next story, besides that the perp killed a man, the self-defense claim doesn't hold water, in my opinion. Quote,
A straight man who beat a gay man to death was just acquitted after he said that he felt violated because the gay man posed as a woman in order to have sex with him. Virginia Tech football player Issy Mem Etut, 19, was found not guilty on a charge of second-degree murder in the death of Jerry Paul Smith, 40, after the jury deliberated for 3 hours.
end quote. While technically this was not a trans-panic case, because the law took effect in July, a month after the killing took place, the defendant chose to argue self-defense from the outset. A tough call either way. Jesus fucking Christ. Another shooting, this time in Tulsa, less than a mile from an acquaintance's significant other's workplace. Early reports have 4 deaths. The shooting occurred just before 5 p.m. local time. This is turning into an everyday affair. Preliminary reports state that the shooting in Tulsa, one victim was a specific target of the killer. Here's the thing, Brian. A 3rd grader is harming no one and later can reverse their decision if they so choose. An 18-year-old purchased 2 AR-15 style assault weapons and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. He killed 21 people, including 19 elementary school children. He can't reverse any of those decisions.
There, and if you want to go a step further, we are being told by the left that a 3rd grader has the knowledge to determine if they were born a boy or they were born a girl, whether or not they want to stay that gender that they were born with. And if we feel like at 3rd grade you can make decisions on your gender, then I think by the time you're 18, you should have enough maturity, assuming you're not a complete psychopath, to buy a handgun and exercise your Second Amendment.
I mean, seriously, dude, how accurate do you think one must be when firing ammunition that literally shreds human flesh? And to be clear, the Uvalde shooter didn't buy a handgun. He bought 2 fucking AR-15 style rifles. Big difference.
It's 3 times faster and struck with more than twice the force. The shockwave of the AR-15 bullet blasted a large cavity in the gel, unlike the bullet from the handgun.
Wow, there's enormous difference. You can see right away.
Exactly. There's fragments in here. There's kind of took a curve and came out. You can see a much larger area in terms of the fractures that are inside.
Now watch from above. On top, the handgun. At bottom, the AR-15.
It's just exploded.
It's exploded and it's tumbling. So what happens is this particular round is designed to tumble and break apart.
The 9mm handgun round has a larger bullet, but this AR-15 round has more gunpowder, accelerating its velocity. Both the round and the rifle were designed in the 1950s for the military. The result was the M16 for our troops and the AR-15 for civilians.
There's going to be a lot more damage to the tissues, both bones, organs, whatever that gets kind of even near this bullet path. The bones aren't going to just break, they're going to shatter. organs aren't just going to kind of tear or have bruises on them. They're going to be, parts of them are going to be destroyed.
Are you fucking stupid, Derek?
How is it that a young man using a weapon for the first time, he only obtained these AR-15s about a week ago. Not enough time to train to become proficient in it. But we've seen this repeatedly in a number of mass shooting events. Nicholas Cruz, Cho Sung-hui. How is it possible that these young men are so accurate with their fire, using them for the first time in a real-life situation? Police who are trained for situations where they might need to use their firearm in a live fire situation, statistically, hit their target 20 to 30% of the time, even less if they're being fired at in return. Soldiers, likewise, miss their target most of the time, especially if they're taking return fire. So how is it these young men were so accurate? It doesn't make any sense. Conspiracy theorists will say it's because they were trained. This was a black op. This was a false flag. No, I think the instructor in that course was correct. The children, the teachers, law enforcement in Uvalde, Texas, encountered a demon Tuesday. One who's done this before.
As a side note, initially I was going to state, quote, just hold down the trigger and spray. But I discovered that would be incorrect. Semi-automatic assault weapons, such as the AR-15, do not spray fire. In the same vein, the term assault weapon is really more of a political term and a pejorative term, useful for creating mental images of military weapons capable of deadly spray fire. So, learn something new every day. This next clip, it sounds like a really, really bad Kevin Sorbo movie. Quote,
Pastor Jack Hibbs of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, on Sunday blamed the teaching of evolution for a mass school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. During an interview on Newsmax, Hibbs argued that policymakers should focus on promoting Christianity instead of gun safety laws.
And then the second thing is we teach kids in school, God's dead, he's not real, evolution's true, you're nothing but an animal, and then we act up, or we see them act up and we get upset that they don't act like angels. We tell them they're animals, go out there and be a good boy. And this young man conducted himself like an animal, and it's tragic because exactly right, where was his mom, where was his dad? And even if he didn't have a mom or a dad, where was his family members? What went wrong? We need to be unpacking that instead of this issue of the Second Amendment. This is ridiculous. We need to talk about the heart rather than the Second Amendment.
oh, and Pastor Hibbs, in answer to one of your questions, his grandmother, his guardian, so to speak, was dealing with being shot in the face by the perp. She was unable to, monitor his whereabouts and what he was up to. Fucking jackass. Brian Kemp received 73.7% of the vote compared to Taylor's 3.4%. She didn't just lose, but got her ass whooped. Like a true Lindell devotee, she has accused her opponents of cheating. What I would ask her, you say God can do anything he wants to, but yet he didn't ensure your win. How do you know that God has not spoken through the results as they are? Maybe he didn't want you to win. Do you speak for God?
I wanted y'all to know that I do not concede. I do not. And if the people who did this and cheated are watching, I do not concede. And the people of Georgia will not allow me to. I want you to feel inside of your gut a righteous anger for justice. I want you to pray specifically, I want you to pray for dark to be brought to light, for justice for the state of Georgia. And anyone who has helped contribute to this crime, to this travesty, anyone who's contributed to this, I want you to pray that they feel so guilty they come forward. God can do anything He wants to. So we pray for guilt.
And I'm speaking of Candace Taylor, by the way. The GQP, like Taylor, just don't appear willing to accept the results. And that refusal to accept the realities of a losing election further illustrates the direction of the far right and Trump Republicans. They're reluctant to trust anything that doesn't go their way. And I mean literally doesn't go their way. John Oliver did a wonderful monologue on Candace Taylor, and I highly recommend it. Patriot Takes has been busy in regards to this video. Contributions from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, I have touched upon one clip last week, but I missed these gems. Greene is not real easy to listen to, so doing it in 10-15 minute squirts is kind of hard. You miss stuff. So the first clip. Greene wondered why there were so many young people identifying as part of the LGBT community lately, and suggested that it was a conspiracy to make the entire country queer.
They just want you to think that all of a sudden the entire population is steadily turning gay or turning trans, just generation. Probably in about 4 or 5 generations, no one will be straight anymore. Everyone will be either gay or trans or non-conforming or whatever the list of 50 or 60 different options there are.
She also rebutted the assertion that white supremacy groups are the most dangerous terrorists by saying that some of the most dangerous people in America are trans terrorists. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what the hell is a trans terrorist? I've never heard of such a thing. I don't even think such a thing exists.
Guys, well, you know how you hear Jerry Nadler and the Democrats and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and AOC and all these people telling you that the most dangerous terrorists or domestic terrorists in America are white supremacists, obviously. But here's what you need to know. I think some of the most dangerous people in America are trans terrorists.
Basically, MTG is attempting to turn monkeypox into the next gay disease. Now, yes, it is true that monkeypox can be spread through sex, but it's not a sexually transmitted infection. Close contact with bodily fluids of infected people or animals can spread the illness.
You could put the correct information that monkeypox is really only transmitted mostly through gay sex, because that it really is the truth about monkeypox. But you know what? That is not satisfying for these folks. They have to make it scarier, and they've been monitoring your social media site because that's what they do. And you guys don't have enough monkey emojis. That's why I'm telling you, you've got to up your game. So they have been editing their website to make monkeypox much more frightening, to explain to you that anyone could catch it. Monkeypox can clearly jump from person to person. I mean, monkeys jump from tree to tree. Clearly, the monkeypox virus is going to jump person to person without the gay sex. That's what they're telling you now. So this is insane. Okay. All right. So anyways, it's enough of the monkeypox. We'll keep updating you on.
The entire video can be found on Rumble, of all places. I included the links in the notes. And that pretty much does it for this installment. There will be more. Just not sure how much. Enjoy. And peace out.